Hello everyone. In my attempts to bring back more community while we're all quarantining ourselves, I had an idea of doing interviews with worship team members so that you can get a sense of people's stories and people that you've played music with, you've sung with, but you can hear a little bit more about their story, their testimony, and how they're doing during this time. And so with me, I have on the Zoom chat our first interviewee. His name is Logan Becker. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask Logan some questions and kind of let him take it from here. So hello, Logan.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing good.
How are you surviving the quarantine?
Fairly well. Um, I was telling you earlier, it's not much different than spring break would have normally been, but um, it is kind of restless feeling not being able to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because I'm up in Salem with my family. We usually figure out places to go, coffee shops or places to eat, but there's none of that. So,
Yeah.
But safe and have food and everything comfortable. So it's
Good.
a blessing. Yeah.
That's good. So, you've been on the worship team for a couple years now. People have, you've been pretty much every Sunday for the last little bit here. I don't know, a whole lot of people know your testimony though. So I was hoping 5 minutes or so, you could kind of give us a quick rundown of your testimony and how you came to know Christ.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a Christian home, so I went to Sunday school and grew up going to church. And I remember praying for the first time when I was like 5 or something. And so there wasn't like maybe that was the first kind of encounter with Jesus, but I didn't really have great understanding of the gospel or who God is, and that kind of grew over time. But we moved to Kenya. My parents are missionaries, so we lived there for 3 years. Yeah, when I was 7th grade through 9th grade. And it was a Christian school, so I learned more and kind of tried to do the devos and like I don't know, be like a good Christian kid. And then moved back to California where we were living before, and then a year later moved to Germany. And at this point I knew the gospel and I had been to chapel countless times and kind of had grown weary of it, I think, just by the end of high school. And then I graduated from high school and went to a music school in Freiburg for a year. And that was like a really, that was a hard, dark kind of year. Not even attempting to be with God or follow Jesus. I think just like moving out and being on my own, I didn't have to pretend for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But then through some complicated and still confusing circumstances with my school. I couldn't get a student visa, and so I had to move somewhere. I couldn't be in Germany. And so I had family in Oregon. My grandparents lived here, and my brother lived here at the time and still does. And my parents just moved back in, was it June? Must have been June.
Yeah, ish.
Um, um, and so I moved back, and it was pretty jarring. And and so, like I said, I don't know if there was like a conversion moment, but a big part of my coming to follow Jesus and like take my faith as my own and seriously is joining UFC, and going to retreats. One of the spring retreats for a Good Fight was a kind of a pivotal time in my walk. I think especially contrasting what I saw in this new community with and what I saw in who God is, contrasting to my life in Germany, just kind of turned away from him. So since then, I mean, I've been obviously I'm not a perfect human being now, but I think I coming away from that weekend or however long that retreat was, just like having hope in something that isn't fleeting, and having peace that that I'm where I need to be, and that that I'm forgiven for my sins. So and just like seeing, not just understanding that, but like seeing the beautiful full life that he offers now in Christ. So yeah, is that 5
awesome.
minutes?
Oh. Probably. I think it's great. I think it's great to hear your story. I mean, I've heard it before, and obviously we've worked closely with each other for the last 2 years or so, you know. And obviously seeing your growth as a Christian, your Christian maturity. Am I there? Can you hear me? Are we good?
I can hear you. Your face is okay. We're good.
Okay. So it's great to hear your story. And so how long have you attended UFC then? Just for the record.
I think it's been 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, somewhere in there.
Okay. And then how did you hear about UFC?
So I heard about it from my grandparents, who knew Brett from First Baptist when he was a youth pastor, like 20 something years ago. And then I got like a bookmark flyer thing for a different church in Eugene, and then I like looked it up, and I found UFC, which is not the church on the flyer. And I went, and so that's kind of how I found out. Also, one of the previous college pastors texted me because he knows one of my family's friends in Germany.
Oh, crazy.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's nuts. And you've been serving on the worship team, if I remember correctly, just about from the time that you started going to UOC, right?
Yeah, I remember connecting with Dave Williams the first Sunday,
Hmm.
and then I think I met you the weekend after that.
Yeah.
And then I started playing for the high school ministry on Wednesdays
Hmm.
for maybe middle of fall term, and then through the year.
Hmm. Yeah. And I remember you were started on acoustic. I mean, now
Yeah.
you're kind of like an electric bass guy, but it was acoustic at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
Yeah,
fun.
and I was not super comfortable with that.
So you've been serving on the worship team for a couple of years now. What is the thing that you most enjoy about the worship team?
um, hmm. Well, I think music is, and the worship ministry is really unique
Hmm.
because of music. I'm studying music in my classes, but it's just like it brings people together in a really unique way.
Hmm.
And I'm, don't think I'm that eloquent a speaker, and so having a voice through music is really valuable to me, um, and then like I think so connection with people
Hmm.
is really cool, and um, I've just really enjoyed learning about worship and um, what it means to worship, uh, and just kind of that process of learning how to let some things go so I can focus and use my gifts um, for God's glory.
Hmm.
So it's been a cool it's been a cool process.
Oh, that's awesome. You mentioned it. So you're currently studying music at UO.
Mhm.
What is your official major?
It is now popular music studies.
Hmm.
I was a jazz studies major, but I switched because it was a lot.
Pretty intense.
Yeah, yeah.
And what year are you?
Well, I just found out I'm a junior,
Ooh,
so it's cool. I think I'll graduate next spring.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be graduating. What do you hope to do in the future? Be related to your degree or not? But what are you looking forward to?
Um, well, I'm hoping to someday um, be a worship pastor, or at least do something with music and ministry.
Yeah, that's
So that's
exciting.
exciting. Yeah. Um, and songwriting and stuff is all part of that, I guess. But that's kind of the direction.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned songwriting. What do you feel like what do you feel like the songwriting can give to the local church? Um, Maybe I'll just leave it at that.
um, hmm. Well, I think it can it can do a lot on different levels. Um, for the worship team, it's really cool to have, um, first of all, the experience of writing music, um, and it's just another level of using your musical ability
Hmm.
um, to serve the body and to serve God. Um, I think that's really been encouraging recently. Just writing some music with you guys, but I think as a congregation, it's a unique experience. I think to have your church writing their own music. I don't know. I think it can engage. It can probably engage people on a deeper level than as another Hillsong tune, or like, you know, it's more of a personal, intimate experience.
Yeah.
Musically.
Yeah, kind of like our own voice.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've been handling the quarantine pretty well. What unexpected blessings have come from this scenario? And how can we be praying for you?
Well, I think we have so much time. There's like an incredible amount of time. I don't have like kids or anything, but so that's different. But like the Good Fight made like a discipleship challenge. So reading through First Timothy and like spending lots of time in prayer. So just like having the time and not having an excuse to not spend that time with God has been really cool. I mean, seeing my family has been good. And,
Yeah. It's always good.
So, yeah.
As a worship team, community, how can we be praying for you?
I think it'll be tempting to not get much done with all that said. Having a lot of time can be kind of unmotivating. So especially with school starting and we're not actually meeting in person or even having Zoom calls, it'll be difficult to like discipline myself to get everything done I need to.
Okay. Yeah, with all the free time, well, that's a blessing. It also, yeah, because I've done online classes. That can be challenging to stay motivated, for sure.
Yeah. And I think also I tend to isolate myself, just not that it's a good thing, just part of the way I function sometimes. So in this time, being kind of active about reaching out to people and connecting, which is a challenge. But
well, yeah.
Not that I love people. It's just a tendency of to isolate. So
No, I get it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day when we can all gather together again and play music, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah, well.
So I have one last question, and this wasn't on the question list that I gave you, but it's the most important question, arguably. When you brush your teeth, do you get the toothbrush wet first and then put on toothpaste, or toothpaste and then get it wet? There's a lot about you, Logan.
Okay. I put toothpaste and then water.
Okay. Acceptable.
Is that the right answer?
I don't.
I just find when you put water on first, the toothpaste doesn't stick to the toothbrush as well.
Interesting. I use hot water. Do you use cold water?
I don't know.
All right.
Whichever is more convenient, I guess.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Logan, for your time and for being the first to go and the guinea pig. So
Yeah,
it was good seeing you and hearing your voice. So we'll be praying for you.
thanks. Thank you.